the astronaut who carried Earth's memories across a silent universe. The last sunrise on Earth was not like the others. It came quietly, pale and unsure, as if the world itself hesitated to wake. The oceans shimmered with a weak light, and the air carried a strange calm, the kind that happens before something ends. Commander Elias Raan stood on the launch deck of the Orbital Station Helios, his suit sealed and his heart heavy. He had been chosen for a mission that no one wanted but everyone needed. He would be the last astronaut to leave Earth, the one who would carry its memory into the endless dark. The Earth below him was dying. Centuries of war, greed, and neglect had bled it dry. Forests turned to dust, rivers boiled away, and cities sank under their own ruin. Humanity had long abandoned their home, fleeing into the stars, building colonies on cold worlds. But Elias stayed behind, to do one last thing. He was the keeper of the archive, a collection of everything that once defined life on Earth. Music, art, voices, photographs, letters, laughter. Billions of memories stored in a crystal core the size of his palm. It contained the history of humanity, its pain and its beauty. He looked at the blue sphere through the window, now dim and bruised with clouds of ash. "You deserved better," he whispered. "We all did." A voice crackled in his earpiece. "Commander Raan, this is Control. The Solace is ready for departure. Confirm status." "Status confirmed," Elias replied softly. His voice echoed through the silent cabin. The ship Solace was small, built for one traveler. It was sleek and silver, its hull lined with radiation shields and memory conduits. It wasn't made to return. It was made to travel endlessly, carrying Earth's legacy across the stars. As the engines hummed to life, Elias placed the crystal core into the containment chamber at the center of the ship. The lights flickered blue, responding to the presence of the data. Control spoke again. "Elias, once you leave orbit, communication will weaken. You'll be alone out there." "I've been alone for a long time," Elias replied, a faint smile touching his lips. "Mission objective confirmed. Travel beyond mapped regions, broadcast the Earth archive to any receiving civilizations, and preserve humanity's memory." "Understood."
The countdown began. 10, 9, 8.
The launch pad trembled.
7, 6.
The light outside turned blinding.
5, 4.
Elias gripped the seat arms, his eyes on the fading Earth.
3, 2, 1.
The Solace launched into the sky, fire bursting from its engines as it rose through the atmosphere. The clouds broke apart. The blue turned to black. And just like that, Elias left everything behind, the oceans, the mountains, the laughter, the sorrow, all of it shrinking into a small marble suspended in space. For a long time he watched it, the Earth, his home, the planet that once sang with life and now lay silent. He whispered to the empty cabin, "Goodbye." Days turned into weeks. The Solace drifted past the moon, past the asteroid belts, into the void where the stars were no longer familiar. Elias spent his hours recording his thoughts, speaking to the archive as if it were a friend. "Archive log, day 32, he said one morning. "The silence is heavy out here. No signals, no voices. Just the hum of the ship. I sometimes play the recordings, the sound of rain, birds, laughter. It almost feels like home again." He paused, looking at a projection of a meadow, a piece of Earth recreated through hologram. The grass swayed in a wind that didn't exist. He reached out, his hand passing through the illusion. Almost. He carried with him small items from Earth, a child's drawing of the sun, a seashell from the coast of Japan, and an old vinyl record of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. They were fragments of what once was. Sometimes, when he couldn't sleep, he would play the record and close his eyes. The piano filled the ship with sound, soft and sad. It was the only music left in the universe. Then one day, as the Solace crossed into deep interstellar space, the sensors detected something strange, a faint signal, weak and distorted. Elias leaned forward. "Computer analyze source. Unknown origin. Frequency irregular. Possibly artificial. His pulse quickened. For years, humans had searched for signs of life beyond Earth, but they found only silence. Now, perhaps something was calling back. He activated the receiver. Static filled the cabin, then a distant rhythm, like a heartbeat lost in the stars. It wasn't language. It wasn't random. It was something alive. Could it be another civilization? He whispered. Here he routed the Solace's course toward the source of the signal. As the engines roared softly, he looked once more at the fading speck of Earth in the navigation display. Maybe we're not alone after all, he murmured. But as the Solace journeyed deeper into the unknown, something changed in the ship. The lights dimmed unexpectedly. The systems flickered. The holograms distorted. Computer, status report. Minor power fluctuation detected. Cause unknown. Elias frowned. The Solace was built for endurance. It wasn't supposed to fail this early. He checked the diagnostics manually, but the readings made no sense. There was a surge of energy, not from the ship, but from outside. Through the observation window, the stars began to bend, their light warping as if space itself was trembling. What in the? A blinding wave of white light washed over the ship. Alarms screamed. The instruments went dark. And then, silence. Elias found himself floating in a strange glow, neither awake nor asleep. Around him were fragments of sound, whispers, laughter, songs, all the voices of the Earth's archive. He realized, with a cold shiver, that the archive was speaking. Elias, a voice whispered, soft and familiar. It was his mother's voice, a memory he had stored long ago. He froze. Mom, you're not alone, the voice said. You never were. The light deepened, surrounding him in warmth. He saw faces, people from the archive, smiling, reaching toward him. Billions of memories, merging into something alive. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it ended. The lights on the Solace flickered back to life. The ship was silent again. The systems restored. But the star map had changed. He was no longer where he had been. Computer, he said weakly, location check. Unknown sector. Star patterns unrecognized. He was lost. But as he stared at the view ahead, he saw something impossible, a planet, glowing faintly blue, almost like Earth. His breath caught. No way. The signal he had followed. Maybe it wasn't just a random call. Maybe it was leading him somewhere. He set a new course toward the planet. And for the first time since leaving Earth, Elias felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The blue planet filled the viewport, shining softly against the backdrop of endless black. It was smaller than Earth, with rings that glowed faintly silver and clouds swirling like brushed paint. Elias stared at it for hours, his heart beating fast. After years of silence, this world appeared like a dream, a memory reborn in light. Computer, he said quietly, analyze the planet. Atmosphere. Breathable with high oxygen concentration. Surface. Liquid water detected. Signs of energy fields present. Unknown biological data. Elias sat back in disbelief. Life, maybe. He had been traveling for so long that he had forgotten what the word alive really meant. The recordings of Earth, the forests, the rivers, the songs were all echoes. But this world might still breathe, might still sing. He began the descent through the planet's thin clouds. The sky shimmered pale gold, and below stretched a landscape of crystal plains and silver seas. Strange blue trees stood like glass sculptures, reflecting the sunlight. The Solace landed on a smooth plateau. Dust rose in glowing particles. When Elias stepped out, his boots pressed into soft, metallic soil that rippled like liquid light. The air smelled faintly of ozone and rain. He whispered, "It's beautiful." For hours, Elias explored. The planet was silent. No wind, no birds, no sign of civilization. Only the hum of energy beneath the ground. The crystals seemed alive, pulsing gently when he passed. He placed a small beacon in the ground. "This is Commander Elias Raan of the vessel Solace. I come from Earth, a world that once lived and dreamed." I carry its memories. The beacon transmitted into the open air, sending the archive's signal across the planet. He waited. At first, nothing happened. Then, the light around him shifted. The crystals turned brighter, their glow synchronized like a heartbeat. The ground vibrated gently beneath his feet. Elias froze. Computer, record all readings. The voice of the AI responded calmly. Energy flux increasing. Pattern consistent with response communication. Response? From who? The answer came not through sound, but light. The crystals lifted from the ground and began to form shapes, vague figures that shimmered in translucent hues. Faces, arms, outlines, beings made entirely of energy. Elias stepped back in awe. They surrounded him, their eyes like stars, their forms flickering with gentle color. One of them moved forward and placed a glowing hand over his chest. Elias felt warmth spread through his body, not painful, familiar, as if he were being understood without words. A voice echoed inside his mind, melodic and calm. You carry echoes of a world that is gone. Elias gasped. You can understand me? We understand what you remember, the being replied. Your memories sing across the void. We heard them. He blinked. You heard the Earth's memories?
Yes.
They were like music, sorrowful, beautiful, full of longing. Elias felt tears form behind his helmet visor. You heard us. The being tilted its head. Your world is gone, yet you carry its light. Why do you travel alone? He hesitated, searching for words. Because someone has to remember. Someone has to carry what we were. If I stop, then Earth truly dies. The beings glowed brighter, as if moved by his words. Memory is not lost when it is shared. You gave it voice across the silence. Now we will remember with you. Elias lowered his head. For the first time, he didn't feel completely alone. He spent several days among the light beings, learning about their world. They were ancient, older than Earth, and existed not as physical creatures, but as energy patterns bound to the planet's crystal network. They called themselves the Luminal. They had no need for speech or form. They communicated through emotion, memory, and light. To them, time was fluid. The past and future existed as glowing threads they could touch. One evening, or whatever counted as evening under the planet's silver sky, Elias shared a part of the Earth archive with them. He projected music, a recording of a violin sonata. The sound filled the air, vibrating against the crystals. The Luminal listened in silence. Then, to his amazement, they began to respond, not with instruments, but with light. The entire plane pulsed to the rhythm of the song. Colors danced in harmony with the notes. It was as if the planet itself was playing along. Elias laughed softly, overwhelmed. You understand music. We understand feeling, they replied. Your world felt deeply. It loved, it grieved, it dreamed. Those dreams now echo within you. He watched as the light spread across the horizon, forming shapes, trees, rivers, cities, all drawn from the archive's data. The Luminal were recreating Earth from his memories. A glowing forest appeared around him, shimmering versions of oaks and pines. Waves of light formed oceans. A sunrise of color rose in the distance. Elias stood there, tears streaming down his face. You're bringing it back? Not as it was, they said, but as it is remembered. The days passed like a dream. Elias recorded every detail, their songs, their lights, their way of seeing time. But the more he stayed, the more he noticed something strange. The Solace's systems were weakening again. The energy readings were fluctuating wildly. Computer, he said, studying the console, report system status. Power levels unstable. Source of interference, planetary core. He frowned. The Luminal's energy seemed to be merging with the ship's systems, as if they were trying to connect directly. When he asked them about it, they responded calmly. We wish to preserve your archive. Your body cannot travel forever, but your memories can. He hesitated. What do you mean? You are mortal. You will fade. But your memories, and those of your world, can live within our light. We can carry Earth's story long after your journey ends." Elias stared at them, silent. It was what he had always wanted, for Earth to be remembered. Yet part of him feared losing the last human touch in the process. "Will I still be me?" he asked quietly. "You will be remembered as yourself, the one who carried the flame." He looked at the glowing horizon. Maybe that's all any of us can hope for. He placed his hand on the crystal surface beneath him, feeling its warmth pulse in response. "But not yet. I have one more message to send." The luminal nodded. "Then we will help you reach farther than any human ever has." That night, under a sky of spiraling light, Elias began his final transmission. The luminals stood around him, forming a ring of glowing energy. Together, they amplified the signal of the archive, sending Earth's story beyond this galaxy. As he spoke, the ship's lights pulsed with every word. "This is Commander Elias Raan, speaking for the planet Earth. We were born from dust and starlight. We built cities, dreamed of eternity, and reached for the heavens. Though our world sleeps, our memories travel, in song, in light, in the echoes of what we loved." The luminal released waves of light that carried his message across the stars. Elias watched as the energy shot upward into the void, bright enough to outshine the nearest sun. For the first time, the silence of the universe didn't feel empty. It felt full of voices, of music, of Earth's heart beating once more. When the transmission ended, Elias sank to his knees, exhausted. The luminal approached and touched his shoulder gently. "It is done. The universe will remember." He smiled faintly. "Then I've done my part. Rest now, traveler." He leaned back against the glowing soil, his eyes heavy. Above him, the stars shimmered like the eyes of every soul that ever lived. As he drifted toward sleep, he whispered, "For Earth, always." The luminals stood silently around him, their lights dimming to a gentle glow. And the solace, still carrying the archive, slowly rose into the sky, guided now by both man and light, continuing the journey across a silent universe. When Elias awoke, the world of light was gone. The silver plains and glowing forests had vanished. The sky was dark again, filled with the endless black of deep space. The solace floated quietly through the void, and the planet below was a distant, fading glimmer, as if it had never existed. He blinked in confusion. "Computer, what happened?" "Time passage unknown. Planetary coordinates lost. Ship systems stable." He tried to remember. The luminal, the light, the transmission, everything felt like a dream. But when he checked the archive, he saw something new. The data core glowed faint blue, and within it were recordings he had never made, strange light patterns, sounds that resembled the luminal's energy songs, and memory images of the recreated Earth they had shown him. It wasn't a dream. They had merged with the archive. Elias whispered, "They're still with me." He felt both comfort and sorrow. The luminal had become part of the archive, part of Earth's memory. He was carrying not just the past of his world now, but also the story of another, a civilization of light that listened, understood, and remembered. Days became weeks again. Space returned to its cold silence. Elias spent long hours gazing out at the stars, trying to find purpose after what he had seen. The luminal's message echoed in his mind. Memory is not lost when it is shared. He had shared Earth's story, yet the mission felt unfinished. There were still countless worlds out there, empty, silent, waiting for something to remind them they weren't alone. He activated the ship's long-range scanner. "Let's see what else is out there." A faint reading appeared. Not a planet, but a massive structure drifting between the stars, ancient, metallic, and unmoving. Elias frowned. Another ship? The data showed it was enormous, hundreds of kilometers wide, shaped like a ring, orbiting nothing. A forgotten relic. "Set course," he ordered. The Solace glided through the dark, its engines humming quietly. As he approached, the structure came into view, a hollow ring made of blackened metal, fractured and worn by time. It looked abandoned for centuries. There were markings along its sides, symbols and curves not human, yet oddly graceful, like art frozen in stone. Elias' heart quickened. Could this be another civilization? He maneuvered the Solace closer and matched rotation. A small docking hatch was still visible, though barely functional. He suited up and prepared to board. Inside, the air was stale, the corridors vast and silent. The walls were made of smooth material that shimmered faintly when touched. His footsteps echoed in the emptiness. "Hello," he called, his voice bouncing back through the darkness. No response. He activated his helmet lamp, revealing what seemed to be murals carved into the walls, scenes of beings that looked like tall, slender figures made of metal and light. They stood among stars, holding what looked like spheres, worlds. One mural showed them watching a planet crumble. Another showed them releasing small ships into space, like seeds being scattered. Elias whispered, "Were you searching too?" He continued deeper into the structure until he found a massive chamber at its center. There, floating above a circular platform, was a black cube covered in strange runes. It pulsed faintly.
Alive.
"Computer," he said, "scan that object." Energy detected. Data storage device, ancient. Compatibility uncertain. Elias stepped closer, drawn by an invisible pull. The cube emitted a faint hum, and the symbols on its surface rearranged themselves. A light shot out, scanning him from head to toe. Then a voice filled the chamber. "You are not of our kind." Elias froze. "You can speak. We can remember." He took a careful breath. "I am Elias Raan of Earth. My world is gone, but I carry its memories." "Earth." The voice seemed to taste the word, then echoed softly. "We have heard this name." The world that sang before silence took it. Elias blinked. "You've heard of Earth?" "Long ago. We listened when the stars were young. Many worlds sang once. Few do now." He realized then that this structure was not a ruin, it was an archive, like his own. "We were the wardens of memory," the voice continued. "We preserve the echoes of civilizations that vanished. You are the first traveler to awaken us in 1,000 cycles." Elias felt a chill run through him. "Then you're like me." "No," the voice said softly. "You are more. You carry the memory of your kind with heart, not machine. That is rare in the cold silence." He felt something stir inside him. Pride, grief, purpose. "I want to preserve more than just my world," he said. "If there are other lost civilizations, I want to keep their stories too." The light pulsed slowly. "You would become one of us, a keeper of the forgotten." He nodded.
Yes.
"If it means no world will ever be lost again." The cube glowed brighter, and a beam of light extended toward him. "Then take this gift, Traveler of Earth." It entered his suit, merging with the archive crystal in his chest plate. The core flared white-hot for a second, then settled. "Computer?" Elias gasped. "New database integrated. Source unknown. Capacity expanded tenfold." He stared at the cube. "What did you give me?" "The songs of 1,000 dead stars," the voice said softly. "Every memory we kept before time erased us." The light dimmed, and the cube began to crumble into dust. Elias stood there in silence, overwhelmed. He was now carrying not just Earth's memories, not just the luminous light, but the voices of countless forgotten worlds. Back aboard the Solace, Elias felt the ship hum with new energy. The stars outside seemed brighter, more alive. He activated a new log. Archive log, entry 101. "I found something beyond even my dreams, a ring of memory, ancient and silent. The wardens called to me. I now carry the stories of many worlds, not just my own. The universe may be silent, but it remembers. I will make sure it always does." He leaned back, staring out at the expanse. Somewhere far away, Earth was only a faint particle of dust, but in him, it still lived. He smiled faintly. "Looks like the mission isn't over after all." He plotted a new course, toward a cluster of dying stars ahead. The archive pulsed gently, as if approving. As the Solace began its next voyage, Elias whispered, "I'm not just carrying Earth anymore. I'm carrying everyone who ever dreamed. The stars shimmered, reflecting off the hull like a million eyes watching him go. And through the endless quiet of the universe, one small ship drifted on, a vessel of memory, light, and hope. Elias Raan drifted through the dark, the solace gliding past silent suns and fractured moons. The universe around him was beautiful, cold, endless, and full of echoes he was beginning to feel rather than hear. Every time he looked at the glowing archive core, he sensed the presence of the countless voices stored within. Some whispered softly, some hummed like distant songs, and others were fragments, broken memories of civilizations that had once touched the stars. "Computer," he said one evening, as a dim nebula painted the window violet, "open memory channel 3. The ship responded. "Channel 3 active. Playback initialize." A soft murmur filled the air. Laughter. Wind. The sound of children playing in a park. Then the image of a small blue-green world appeared before him in holographic light. Its continents were strange, its seas bright red. A voice echoed through the cabin. "We were the Darin. We believed the stars were alive. We danced in their light until our sky burned away." Elias sat in silence, watching a civilization live and die within moments. Cities blooming like flowers, then fading into dust. When the memory ended, he whispered, "I remember you." He began to spend more time listening, not just to Earth's memories, but to all of them. He spoke to them as though they were still alive. To the luminal, he said, "Your light still guides me." To the Darin, "Your dances will not be forgotten." And sometimes to Earth he would whisper, "We're not alone anymore." The loneliness that had once haunted him began to fade. The ship was full of voices now, echoes of beings who once dreamed as humans had. It was no longer just a mission. It was a pilgrimage. But the further he went, the stranger the space around him became. The stars grew fewer. The blackness deepened. His sensors began to show distortions, places where time itself bent. "Computer," he said cautiously, "scan anomaly ahead." Result: gravitational disturbance. Possibly an event horizon fragment. Energy signature, similar to archive resonance. Similar? Elias frowned. "To me?" Before he could react, the solace shuddered violently. The lights flickered. A low hum filled the air, like a heartbeat too deep to belong to a machine. And then everything stopped. When Elias opened his eyes, he wasn't inside the ship anymore. He stood on a vast plain of light. There was no ground, no sky, only shimmering waves of gold that moved like water. The stars were gone. Time was gone. And before him stood figures made entirely of energy, brighter and clearer than the luminal had ever been. "Where am I?" he whispered. One of the beings spoke. Its voice was deep, layered, like 1,000 voices speaking together. "You have crossed into the memory field." Elias felt his chest tighten. "The what?" "It is the sea where all remembered things flow. The place between what was and what will be." He realized, with awe and fear, that this might be where all the memories of the universe truly went, not erased, not lost, but stored in a kind of living infinity. "I didn't mean to come here," he said quietly. "My ship. Your vessel still travels. Your body remains. But your mind has entered the current of remembrance. You carry too many voices, Elias Raan. They have drawn you here." He looked around. "Too many voices? Each memory calls for a home. You have become that home. But the burden is heavy. You cannot carry eternity alone." He swallowed hard. The thought of losing these memories, Earth's, the luminals, the Darins, felt unbearable. "I can't let them fade." "They will not fade," the being replied. "But you must release them." Elias shook his head. "If I do, who will remember? Who will tell their stories?" The being's form pulsed softly. "The universe itself remembers. You have done what no other could, you made it listen again. You awakened the silence." Elias stood there, speechless. Then, from the golden waves, a familiar figure emerged, made of light, but shaped like a woman. Her voice was gentle and full of warmth. "Elias," she said softly. He froze. He knew that voice. Mother? The figure smiled. Not her, but the memory of her. The one you kept alive inside you. He stepped forward, tears in his eyes. I thought I lost you long ago. You never lost me, she said, touching his cheek with a hand made of light. You carried me, and everyone else, across the stars. But you don't have to carry us forever. He closed his eyes. I'm afraid to let go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting, she whispered. It means trusting that what you remember will keep living, in others, in light, in time. Her form began to fade, her warmth retreating into the glow around him. Go back, Elias. There is still more to see, more to give. The golden waves began to swirl faster. Elias felt himself being pulled upward, the voices around him merging into one vast harmony, billions of lives singing together. Then, everything went white. He gasped awake inside the solace. The alarms were silent. The ship drifted in calm space. For a long moment, he just breathed, staring at the shimmering stars outside. Then, he checked the archive. Its glow had changed. The crystal pulsed with calm light, not the restless hum it once had. The data was stable, unified. Computer, he said quietly, status? Archive energy levels balanced. Emotional sync restored. Core stable. Elias sat back, overwhelmed with quiet relief. The voices were still there, but softer now, at peace. He looked out the window again. Ahead, he could see a faint cluster of lights, stars forming a spiral around a dark center. A new galaxy, untouched. He smiled faintly. Maybe it's time to start again. He activated the ship's recorder. Archive log, entry 142. I've seen what lies beyond memory, a sea of light where everything we were still exists. The universe remembers us all, even when we think it doesn't. I thought I was alone, but I was never truly alone. The silence isn't empty, it's full of what we've left behind. He turned toward the new galaxy and engaged the engines. The Solace glowed softly, leaving a trail of blue light as it entered the dark horizon. Elias whispered, "For every world that ever dreamed, this is for you." And the ship vanished into the stars, carrying the light of 1,000 forgotten worlds toward the unknown. The Solace sailed across the dark like a silver tear falling through eternity. Time had stopped meaning anything. Days, years, decades, they blurred into one long moment of drifting and remembering. Commander Elias Raan, the last astronaut of Earth, was no longer the same man who left his home planet. He had become something different, a living archive, a vessel of stories, carrying the dreams of countless worlds through the ocean of silence. And yet, even after all this time, one thing still burned inside him: hope. He approached the spiral galaxy slowly, its arms glowing faint gold against the deep void. It was new, still forming, a nursery of suns. Dust clouds glittered like starlight veins. "This is where life begins again," Elias murmured. "The perfect place for memory to find a home." He guided the Solace toward the outer edge of the spiral. The ship's scanners detected faint planetary formations, barren rocks now, but one day they would hold oceans and forests. He smiled softly. Maybe they'll find the stories waiting for them. Inside the ship, the archive pulsed with light, almost as if it were alive, breathing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Elias placed his hand over the glowing core. "We've come far, old friend," he said. "It's time." The computer's voice echoed calmly. "Confirm objective. Begin the final broadcast. Warning: initiating planetary seed transmission will consume remaining power reserves. Human survival probability below 1%. He hesitated for only a moment. Then he smiled. "I know. But this was never about survival." He sat in his command chair, gazing at the stars. The computer began the countdown. The ship's hum deepened. Energy gathered in the archive, glowing from blue to white. Through the transparent hull, he could see streams of light spiraling outward, fragments of the archive breaking apart and scattering into the galaxy. Each fragment carried stories: Earth's laughter, the luminal songs, the Darin's dances, the warden's hymns. It was like watching souls being released into the stars. "This is Commander Elias Raan of the vessel Solace," he said into the recorder, his voice calm, steady, filled with peace. "To whoever finds this light, know that you are not the first to dream. We were here, the people of Earth. We loved, we created, we reached for the stars. Our world may be gone, but we left behind the beauty of what we were. If you hear this, remember us not for our mistakes, but for our hope. Carry it forward." The transmission beams expanded, filling the dark with brilliance. One by one, the fragments vanished into the cosmic dust, embedding themselves in the newborn worlds. Each piece would rest, waiting for the next species to rise, to learn, to remember. The ship began to dim. The engines faded. The computer's voice softened. Energy levels critical. Life support failing. Elias leaned back in his seat, looking out at the swirling galaxy. The stars looked closer now, almost within reach. "It's beautiful," he whispered, "just like home." He could feel his body growing weaker, but his mind was calm. In the fading hum of the ship, he heard faint echoes, voices, laughter, music. They weren't recordings anymore. They were alive, around him, within him. He closed his eyes and saw them, the luminal glowing like living constellations, the Darin dancing beneath red skies, the people of Earth smiling under blue heavens. And then, among them, he saw a figure, his mother again, made of light, smiling. "You kept your promise," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "I carried them as far as I could." She touched his face, her hand warm and radiant. "You carried us farther than anyone ever dreamed." He felt the last warmth of the solace fading, but his heart was full. "Then I can rest," he whispered. The light embraced him gently, and in the last moment before darkness, Elias Raan, the last astronaut of Earth, felt the universe itself breathe. From the outside, the Solace became a quiet silhouette drifting among the stars. Then, in a final surge of radiance, it released a wave of energy, a final heartbeat of light that spread through the galaxy. Wherever it passed, it left traces, whispers in radiation fields, patterns in starlight, melodies hidden in cosmic dust. The story of Earth was now written into the universe itself. 1,000 millennia later, on a young planet orbiting a yellow sun, a new civilization stood beneath the night sky. They built telescopes, sent signals, searched for voices among the stars. One night, a scientist noticed something strange, a repeating pulse hidden in the cosmic background, like a song waiting to be heard. She amplified the signal. Static filled the air. Then a voice. "This is Commander Elias Raan of the vessel Solace. To whoever hears this, you are not alone." The scientist froze, tears filling her eyes. Around her, her team gathered, listening in awe as ancient words traveled across time. The voice continued, gentle, human, eternal. "Remember Earth, remember us." And across the endless night, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if they remembered too. In that moment, the story came full circle. The memories that had once been carried across the silent universe had finally found a home again. And somewhere, in the heart of that eternal light, the soul of Elias Raan drifted peacefully, watching over the stars and smiling.